Good afternoon, everyone. This is Knox Henderson, Investor Relations with Great Bear Resources. Today, we're going to be reviewing a news release we put out today, July 6th, Monday. With me today, of course, is Chris Taylor, President and CEO of Great Bear. How are you today, Chris?
I'm excellent, Knox. I imagine you're having a very busy morning.
Yeah, a lot of calls. I mean, the good news is under the high-grade gold is more high-grade gold, which everybody was really looking forward to seeing what lies beneath. So we've got some deeper drilling done, and a lot of different sections that we have in the news release. So maybe you want to kind of walk us through it just to kind of make this a little bit easier to grasp.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, one of the themes that we were talking about recently in other interviews and webinars was the fact that we have this big kind of 1.2 kilometer, 1.3 kilometer wide dilation zone, and these big structures head along this thing. So it'd be in and out of the page as you show a section. And what we did with the most recent drilling is effectively drill deeper on the sections that we already have. And what we're seeing is that you have really good continuity of the high-grade mineralization. And in fact, what we're seeing in many areas along the LP fault, most areas that we've drilled, whether this is the far northwestern tip or this sort of central area that we're drilling now, is that basically it looks like the system's getting wider as it goes down to depth. And that's a very interesting finding, because I think probably the best way to describe it is like, you know, if you have the zones are sticking up like the fingers of my hand, or say, let's put it that way. So, you know, you have something like, you know, the LP fault zone, Dixie limb zone, hinge zone, arrow zone, God knows what other thumb finger this would be. But even if you look at this, as you drill at surface, you know, you might see maybe just one zone. You get a little bit deeper, you see 3 zones, deeper you see 4 zones, deeper you see 5 zones. And that's a good analogy for what we're seeing here, is that as we go down to depth and we get closer to what we think is sort of a root structural source for this mineralization, we're getting increased numbers of gold zones. And that just fits the model that we've had in hand for a number of months now, that this big dilatant package running along the Dixie project has the potential to host additional gold mineralization. We saw it in the news release today. We saw it with the Arrow discovery a couple of weeks ago. It's just a process, I think, you know, I don't have a crystal ball, but the thesis seems to be correct. So I would imagine that as we continue to explore beyond the sort of 5 kilometers to 11 kilometers we've drilled so far, that there's good potential for additional discovery too.
Yeah, well, in fact, in hole BR 129, I think we hit the widest interval of high grade to date. And that was underneath our previous one, which was BR 137, which was nearer the surface. And that was 31.33 grams over 20 meters. But this new one below it is, you know, 10 grams over 31 meters.
Yeah, it's amazing to see it. Like, there was some speculation early on that if the system got wider, we wouldn't be able to concentrate the grade. But at, you know, in the very near surface on this section, section 20,000, we have like, it's over 500 gram per ton material within that big interval that you quoted. I think it's an ounce over about 20 meters. And then now at, you know, you're 400 meters vertically below that in the same zone, and you still have 500 gram per ton gold material. And you've still got now an even wider zone. It's about 10 grams over 30 meters. So, you know, the gold mineralization, one of the keys is on that section, every drill hole has about 100 grams plus gold material on it without fail. And that sort of continuity of high grade gold over such a big vertical extent, I mean, that's really impressive. Maybe it would be, do you think anybody would want to see these sections and sort of look at them a little bit more, Knox?
Yeah, definitely. I think you should pop up a few of them. Maybe start with your plan map just to show where they are, and then maybe zoom in on each section, 2 or 3 of them.
So I was thinking about this morning, and effectively I put together a couple of slides just with the figures in it. So let me look at these. So can you see that okay up on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we do every news release is we put out basically a map. It's a cartoon looking, but it's real data and real physical dimensionality. And again, to reiterate here, that's a 1 kilometer scale bar. And if you look at the numbering here, each one of these squares is 2 kilometers. So you can see roughly that you have just 4 to 5 kilometers of strike length on the LP fault. And today we put out sections here and we put out sections here. And The main reason being, like, we're beginning to fill in the drill density in these areas. And while we had good numbers and we continue to generate excellent numbers out of these zones, people are always skeptical naturally when you drill such incredible stuff that it's a one and done kind of effect. What we're showing is, in fact, in these sections where we're drilling them, we're getting repeated, hits that are very high grade. And what's really interesting is as we go down to depth, Knox, like, you're seeing again that sort of broadening of the system. And I guess I'm gonna have to minimize. You probably see a black box. Whoops. You probably see a black box on the screen in front of you here. So I'm just going to get that out of the way. But looking from the the southeast on this side of the screen to the northwest over here, you're in the same zone on all these slides. And the key is that these are 650 meters apart, these two guys here. So same zone, we can see again the same geology on each section. And then we see that, the same marker units, the same geology on each section going through. And effectively today, what's really interesting is all the yellow numbers here are new numbers. And this is that section 20,000 that we're talking about. So you have gold right from here, basically right where the bedrock surface initiates, you're in the zone. And we're seeing that going all the way down to this point here when you're down at it's about 400 meters vertical depth. And each drill hole, like as you can see on this section, has really good drill results on it, like just exceptional numbers, section after section, and going down to depth. So really no doubt here that there's excellent continuity. Even we have just off section, there's a hole that runs through, again, excellent drill results, continuous mineralization. And then when we look at this, what really hits us is, again, keeping in mind that, I don't have the exact number, and I don't think I ever will because there's too many gold deposits in the world, but a normal high-grade gold deposit might have a couple hundred meters of strike length, typically, a few hundred meters if you're really lucky. Some of the big ones can attain kilometers, right? But that's exceptionally unusual. Those are major tier 1 assets. So here we're looking at a 650 meter exposure through the LP fault zone, which again, we've got drilling over 11 kilometers on. And we're doing this grid program on the middle 4 or 5 kilometers. But again, deeper drilling that we've seen on these holes has shown that you get increasing width of mineralization as you go down to depth. And that's, again, the pattern that we're seeing on the system, more zones and wider intervals as we go down to depth on that section. We saw the same thing over here. And of course, we're seeing the same pattern. This is the next section, 50 meters over, is now you have effectively 3 zones of mineralization, including the big LP fault zone, which includes multiple subintervals. And this is amazing because you saw gold over 720 meters of core length here on some of these holes. That for me, I've worked in porphyry deposits quite a bit in my life, and these are the scale of a big porphyry deposit, but it's a gold system. So it's really hard to find those parallels. There's really nothing else that I see, in terms of exploration results being produced globally right now that are sort of with this sort of size range. But typically, again and again, we're seeing that we're getting more grade as we go down to depth. And I think the analogy on this image, if you look at it, you can see that the gold is forming like these fingers on a hand. And as you're going down to depth, you're getting, new zones that just don't pop out at surface. They're not present at surface here. The LP fault is, but as you go down, you're getting increasing zone development and you're getting a widening gold system, probably because you're getting closer to that root structural dilatancy that should underlie these, in our structural interpretation.
All right. In addition to this, I think we found a new gold zone adjacent to the LP fault.
Yeah, that's on this image. That's 2650 off over here. You can see, I'll just get rid of a lot of this scribble. It's starting to cloud things up. But you can see there, again, as we go down to depth, you have the normal LP zone. And then going down to depth, you get another zone here. And we just announced that we have this one now down here. And these zones internally as well, what we're seeing, it's very early days because there aren't a lot of drill holes. But this hole here in the new zone beside the LP fault, that is higher grade material, and it is the deepest hole in that zone. So I think as we do more drilling across the LP and we go deeper, some of these holes are basically going to go down, and they'll continue to test into the footwall areas that have not been tested before, because that increasing zone number with depth is an interesting idea that we'd like to test out further with drilling.
Fantastic. I think that's probably all the time we have for today, unless there's anything else you want to add, Chris. We wanted to keep this nice and brief. If you have any questions, just email info@greatbearresources.ca or phone us at 604-646-8354. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Chris.
Well, I will add, Knox, that we've been very busy drilling. The rig count is increasing again. We're getting through the COVID suppression period. Nobody's got sick in Red Lake, so we're able to ramp things up again. And I would expect more news coming in the relatively near future.
Great. Well, thank you very much.